Anyone who knows anything about Taiwan's history will have heard about the White Terror, the 40-year-long period of martial law that was imposed upon the island and its residents following the arrival of the defeated nationalist government from China. During the White Terror, people were arbitrarily detained, disappeared, imprisoned in places like this, and even sometimes executed for a number of reasons, including being a suspected communist, alleged treason, and other crimes, such as advocating for democracy or better human rights. Most people are familiar with what went on in the later part of the White Terror and events such as the Kaohsiung Incident. But one of the most significant and lesser known incidents during the White Terror took place very early on in this period. And it happened right here in rural North Taiwan, on the border of New Taipei's Xizhi and Shiding districts, in the village of Guangming, or Luku as it was known back then. The Luku Incident occurred in December 1952 when 10,000 troops under the command of General Gu Zhengwen surrounded the small mountain village of Luku after receiving intelligence that it was housing a communist base. This marked the beginning of a 4-month-long operation to root out and arrest members of the alleged cell that was said to be operating out of the village. On the evening of the 28th, all routes into Luku were blocked off, and the next morning soldiers began to sweep the surrounding countryside and houses. According to official government figures, a total of 896 people, including some of the cell leaders, were detained over the ensuing period. The searches also turned up 1 pistol, 165 handmade grenades, 7 homemade landmines, 2 packages of explosives and a bunch of detonators, as well as 5 PRC flags, 10 Red Army armbands and 2 banners of the Taiwan People's Militia. Also found were 43 maps, 1 telegraph machine, a pair of handcuffs and 55 communist texts and books. Those arrested were taken to the Garrison Command's temporary HQ here at the local temple, known back then as the Luku Cai Miao, for interrogation. Villagers of all ages, male and female, were then crammed into several small rooms here at the temple for days on end. They were not allowed to wash, change clothes or even sleep while waiting to be questioned. The interrogation tactics used by officers of the Secret Service were brutal, to say the least. Torture methods included beatings with rifle butts, bamboo poles or rattan canes, sticking with needles, the removal of fingernails, waterboarding, and even being hung upside down. Some detainees were beaten unconscious, others suffered broken bones, while a few were beaten so severely that they were left disabled for life. A few detainees were left severely mentally traumatized, while others committed suicide upon their release. After interrogations were completed, 231 people were charged and put on trial, 183 of them from Luku village. A total of 35 villagers found guilty were executed, while 97 others, mainly teenagers, were handed prison terms ranging from 12 to 3 years. Among those given jail terms, 19 of the younger ones subsequently served out their sentences working as unpaid domestic labourers at the home of General Gu. What's surprising, however, is that the alleged ringleaders of these cells, several other cells were subsequently discovered during the investigation, were neither imprisoned nor executed, instead sent for rehabilitation. One can only presume that the nationalist forces thought they could use these actual communists for some other purpose, such as double agents, perhaps. While several of those detained were indeed die-hard communists, the majority were just ordinary folk trying to survive. Nevertheless, it was the villagers and low-level cadres who suffered the most, even though many of them had no idea what they were getting involved in. Back then, Luku was a remote mountain village, populated mainly by dirt-poor coal mining families. most of whom were illiterate or had received very minimal schooling. Many residents had never even been to Taipei, just 15 kilometers away. Their reasons for joining the organisation were varied. Some were tricked into signing up, while others were tempted by promises of a plot of land. Many had little to no understanding of the political implications or the potential consequences of their actions. And the fact that they were punished more harshly than those who had actually instigated and organised the cells was indeed a cruel irony. For context, it is important to note that at the time, the nationalists on Taiwan were fearful for their very survival due to the threat posed by Mao Zedong's communist forces in China, and were hence paranoid about any form of communist infiltration, no matter how big or small. Still, that doesn't in any way justify the incredibly brutal treatment suffered by the victims of the Luku Incident and the White Terror period as a whole. Now, the reason that the Luku Incident remained so little known for so long was that for many years afterwards, those involved were unwilling to talk about it. That was because Taiwan was still under martial law, and speaking about such matters was likely to land one in trouble with the authorities. The other reasons were the deep sense of shame felt by the remaining friends and families of those imprisoned, both during their incarceration and after their release. Another reason was that shortly after the incident in July 1953, the village changed its name to Guangming after the local temple. This was done at the suggestion of the acting village head, who believed that the name Luku could be interpreted as having a bad meaning. With the new name, the villagers hoped for a change of fortune, while the disappearance of Luku from road signs, official maps and documents also helped the authorities, as it quickly erased this tragic episode from the public memory. Starting in the mid-60s, the closure of all the local coal mines also helped, as the remaining residents moved away from this remote village in search of employment. Of course, it was not so easy for the former residents and those who lost relatives or spent time in jail to forget about the Luku Incident. But with Taiwan's transition to democracy in the late 1980s, the victims were finally free and in some cases willing to speak out. At the same time, economic progress and infrastructure development allowed some of them to start moving back into their old homes in the village. As time passed, historians, researchers and writers have interviewed many of the survivors and have documented their experiences firsthand. This enabled the victims to finally tell their side of the story and share the burden of what they went through during that tragic period. Following Taiwan's opening up, a compensation fund was established in the late 1990s for victims of the White Terror period, and several residents of Luku received payments for unjust imprisonment and the wrongful execution of relatives. Then, on December the 29th, 2000, the 48th anniversary of the incident, another important step in the healing process took place, when the Luku Incident Memorial here was opened by the local government. The memorial describes what happened to the residents of Luku during those dark December days, exactly 71 years ago. It also plays an important role in helping family and friends remember those who perished, while ensuring others never forget the Luku incident and work to make sure that similar things never happen again. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I hope you, maybe not enjoyed this history lesson but learned something from this lesson. And I'd just like to make a note. I know subjects like this are very divisive here in Taiwan, and I'm not taking one side or the other. All of my information is sourced from both English and Chinese sources available online, and I've done my best to present both sides of the story. And yeah, so that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to give me a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you'd like to support the channel, then you can click thanks down below, buy me a coffee, or have a look at what's on offer with channel memberships. For that, you just need to click the join tab below the screen. And that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Over and out.